Hi guys, my name is Jordan Michener, and this is my final project presentation for my Prevention of Child Abuse and Neglect class. The problem that I found and wanted to research more was kinship placement and the effect on foster children's well-being. I wanted to look at how different it can be to live with someone's other kind of relatives when it's not your biological parents, and see if that plays a role on the child's well-being or not, positively, negatively, and all sorts of things. Kinship care from Haydock 2014 is children being placed with relatives is ultimately better for their well-being and overall safety, is what they found, and that relatives are familiar to the child rather than a complete stranger they are expected to live with and they have no past experience with whatsoever, and they're just kind of supposed to jump into this new family. Some pros and cons of kinship care. Pros would be the child or children know and love their caregiver because they are family, they have a history with them. It keeps the child's history intact because they're still in that family unit. But some cons that I was able to find was that they may have unwelcome or unauthorized contact with the birth parents if they're not supposed to be there. The caregivers may not be prepared to care for the child if they've never had a child, or if they haven't had a child in a while, or depending on if this child has behavioral tendencies, could be hard to care for. And then another con is that caregivers may be unwilling or unable to comply with commands of welfare system. So they might not like how the welfare system is asking them to do stuff, or they may not like that the welfare system is asking them to do things in their own home. So that may be difficult for them. Kinship care cons due to abuse and trauma, as I found a lot of stuff from a study from Babel in 2012, found that impaired brain development can be a problem, which is cognitive growth, language skills, and learning ability. On physical health problems could be allergies, asthma, ulcers, arthritis, and high blood pressure. On an emotional consequence level, they could develop low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, suicidal tendencies, PTSD, trust issues, and attachment disorders. Since they may not feel attached to anyone in the home, they might seclude themselves from others. And then on other detrimental disorders, they could grow to start smoking, drinking, drug use, overeating, and sexual promiscuity. This is just a graph of percentage of children in child welfare system who were adopted by relatives in 2015. So obviously the lighter colored states were the lowest of populations, up to no data would be grayish. And this is from the Annie E. Casey Foundation in 2017. The solution that I proposed and found a lot of research for is that court-appointed special advocate intervention and effective CASA prevention programs can be seen to help these children and these families grow accustomed to the welfare system. CASA is a court-appointed special advocate, and it's a volunteer designated by a judge to work in the best interests of children who have been victimized by abuse or neglect. So basically, they intercept these children and they run programs with them throughout the day, throughout the week, or however much they need to be seen with them to try and assess their situation and how they can be helped. And the CASA will assist victimized children by working to provide them with a stable network of support and advocacy that they may otherwise not have access to. So sometimes they'll go to schools, or they can be at local Ys, or just kind of other nonprofit places that have these people come in to help the children that they see need help. This is a graph and it's highlighting the problem of overwhelmed systems and citizen volunteers to help, which can exceed into brighter futures. So there are 600,000 plus children that pass through the U.S. foster care system and family court systems annually. The average child will spend about 2 years or more in foster care, and on average they move from home to home 3 times, which can affect attachment. So citizen volunteers, it's 1 year of CASA can actually cost less than 1 month of foster care. One staff member can support 30 volunteers, which can serve 75 children in the CASA program. And because of all this help and all of these volunteers that help out, the CASA program can change lives. They help children volunteer. They're more likely to find a permanent home. A CASA volunteer is half as likely to re-enter the foster care system. Like, the child that works with them, half as likely to go back into it. They're more likely to find that forever home. And they are also more likely to succeed in school, go on to graduate high school, go on to college. CASA intervention. So children who underwent the CASA intervention during foster care tended to be adopted or reunited with relatives rather than reunified with their birth parents. And that's only because a lot of the birth parents were either emotionally or physically abusive, or had given up their parental rights due to not being able to take care of their child. And then further investigation also needs to be done into the family context to see if reunification with birth parents is safe and ideal for the child, depending on the social situation that they come from, low economic status, abuse, trauma in the home, things like that. And that was from Pilkey 2015. Some of the outcomes that I found from CASA, which is from their actual website, is a child with a CASA volunteer is more likely to find a safe, permanent home. They're more likely to be adopted, half as likely to re-enter foster care. They have a substantially less, they're substantially less likely to spend time in long-term foster care. So they're not going to be the child that's there for 2+ years, maybe a month or two max. They are more likely to have a plan for permanency. They can get more help and services while in the system, and they are less likely to be bounced from home to home because they're going to find that permanent home. And they are also more likely to do better in school. They're more likely to pass all their courses. They're less likely to have poor conduct in school, and they are less likely to be expelled because they're actually succeeding and doing well, and they want to do well and succeed. Some of the conclusions that I was able to find was that there needs to be more effort into strengthening the family unit. That's a lot of what Child Services does, is they try to strengthen the family unit. And while there are times where it's not going to be helpful because of abuse and trauma in the home, that it just cannot be done, but there are times where it's usually just parents struggling to make ends meet. And if they were helped and coached in a way to show them that they can do it and they are able to raise their children, then maybe we could reunify more families than are not being reunified. There needs to be more focus on the children who have experienced problems with grief and or loss in their lives. A lot of these children act out because they have lost someone so close and so dear to them, like a mother, father, family member in that way. And they're kind of swept under the rug, but that their behavioral issues and their problems are kind of like, oh, they're acting out because they're in the system. But it's because they've lost someone so close to them that they are attached to that they now have no attachment. So we need to work with them more to show them that, like, hey, you may have lost this person, but there are so many people that love and care about you, and we need to not treat them like every other kid. And in general, we need to not treat every kid like they're the same, because every kid has their own story and has their own reason for why they have these disorders or these behavioral tendencies or things like that. So they need to be treated individualized and not lumped together as one big main problem. Also, people need to learn how to take effective care of the children placed in your kinship care. You can't just take in a child and pretend like everything's going to be perfect, everything's going to go back to normal, because it's not. You may be grandma or aunt or uncle or someone like that, but you're not mom or dad. So you may be family, but you can't treat them as if it's your kid, because as it may be your kid by law in the kinship care process, it's not your actual kid. So they're not used to you being their parent. They're used to be you being their grandparent, their uncle, their aunt. So you need to learn how to tailor their needs into how you take care of them. More people need to become educated and knowledgeable about what the child or children need. So you can't just give them or teach them and discipline them how you think it's going to work. You need to discipline them, teach them, and give them what they need, what they're lacking, what they're looking for in this kinship care process. As a kinship care provider, you need to try to prepare for every possible scenario to the best of your ability. Obviously, you cannot prepare for everything in the world that could happen, but you need to sit down before you take on this role as a kinship care person and sit down and think, what could possibly happen in the process of me taking care of my niece, my nephew, my grandchild, and then plan for those scenarios and think about what you're going to do to better those scenarios, help those scenarios. And like I said, you cannot prepare for 100% everything every time, but the intent is there. And if you've at least given some thought of what you will do, then you might be able to push that to every other scenario possible. And finally, help the child to form attachments and live the most normal life as possible. They're already really freaked out and scared because they're no longer with their birth parents. They need all the help that they can get. They may have no more attachments, and while they may be attached to you because you're a family member, like I said, you're not their mom or dad. So make the biggest of deals out of the little things possible. So they come home with a gold star for the day from school. Throw a party for it. Tell them that's incredible. Make sure that they're making friends at school and they're making friends with neighbors. They're talking to their teacher if they need help. They're talking to you if they need help. They're forming these attachments, because if they're forming these strong attachments, then they're more likely to succeed later in life. And that's overall what's really important, is that they are healthy and living their lives and not being swept under the rug, falling into the system, and they're getting the help that they so deserve and need. And as long as we're helping the children, then we should be fine. So thank you guys for watching my presentation, and have a great day.